Welcome, ladies and gents. The 2025 season is nearly upon us. Car launch season is nearly in full swing. We've got the big launch event with the livery reveals of all 10 teams coming up. And before that, I just wanted to go through all the teams with the new drivers and go through what I think will probably be the best driver lineup combo for 2025. We've got some all new driver lineups, haven't we? Haas have got Esteban Ocon alongside him, Ollie Berman, Sauber as well, Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto up alongside him. Also, we've got the big one, Ferrari have got Lewis Hamilton up against Charles Leclerc. Red Bull have changed also, Max Verstappen, Liam Lawson alongside him. Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli joins the stable there alongside George Russell. The Racing Bulls, Yuki Tsunoda keeps his seat, but Isaac Hadjar will line up against him, a new rookie in Formula 1. Alpine have got Jack Doohan joining that team, another rookie, alongside Pierre Gasly. The Williams have got the fantastic Carlos Sainz in their stable, alongside Alex Albon. What a exciting prospect we have in terms of the driver lineups. The only two teams that are keeping their lineups the same are McLaren with Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, and Aston Martin with Alonso and Lance Stroll. Let's go through the teams, and I'm going to start in the order of the way they finished the championship with the Constructors' Champions, McLaren. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, the champs from last year. I said too many times they weren't battle hardened. This year they are battle hardened. That team should really come into the scene, into the season all, fist swinging, everything, all in, everything on it. The only problem that they might have again is, though, they don't want to give favoritism to any one of their drivers. They don't really have a clear number one. Lando Norris took that position because it was the closest in the championship, and it looked like there was a lot of media pressure that sort of built that up. They were reluctant to sort of ask Piastri to play the team game for them in that championship to help Norris to the drivers. And I think that could be the big one. Consistency will be the key. Last year, both Piastri and Norris made mistakes. The team, to be fair to them, made mistakes also. Didn't maximise performance of the car and races they should have won. Strategy mistake, qualifying lap mistakes. This year they really do, like I said, need to hit the ground running. 25 looks set to be such a super competitive year considering how the year ended. I mean, we went through a run last season of Mercedes winning 3 and 4, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull taking wins early doors. So, where if you've got a consistent car and it's good early doors, you need to make as much of a gap as you possibly can. Development race it'll be finely balanced because you've got 26 with the big regulations coming, and so there'll be an awful lot of head scratching and do we, don't we, where do we put our budget. But them two up top, it's hard to pick between the two of them and over the rest of the field. I think Oscar's still got work to do. Lando Norris has also got work to do. His drive in Abu Dhabi answered an awful lot of questions, but there were still mistakes, errors. The qualifying errors in Baku we've seen qualified poorly, and them sort of mistakes he needs to cut out. Piastri drove really well through parts of the season, got his first win, which was crucial for him, and he fixed up the issues that he had with sort of overdoing the tyres, didn't he, for much of the season in 23. He got on top of that better, but he needs to make that big step forward for 25. Out of the top 10 teams, I've given them two drivers third place. Shows how tough it'll be at the top between the best driver team combo, I think, personally. But yeah, third place for them. Next up, Ferrari. We've got Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc. They came second last year. Is this Ferrari's big year? I mean, you wouldn't bet against it, but it's Ferrari. They make silly strategic errors. They made their fair share of mistakes last year, but they've got two great drivers on their hands. Charles Leclerc was absolutely outstanding for that year. You see in my previous video, he got the second best in average scores over the whole season, and he really did sort of pick up that team. They are the informed team, so to speak, potentially going into the season quite alongside McLaren. You know, they came on really strong towards the end of the season. The big upgrades really worked for them. And yeah, only towards the end of the season though that really kicked in. But this season they need to hit the ground running. The Hamilton-Leclerc dynamic will, honestly, I just can't wait for it. 1644 should be absolutely brilliant. We've seen, I spoke about Charles Leclerc, what he did last year. He was consistent, he was quick over one lap, he answered an awful lot of questions. Still some issues to iron out with him. I think he needs to be a bit more clear and precise with his instructions to the team. Much you can take a sort of leaf out of Carlos Sainz's book on that, and how he directs the team, because that's one thing Lewis Hamilton will be very good at. He has been very good at throughout his career. He gets people on side, he builds that sort of team around him, and now he's got Lewis Hamilton up alongside him. I cannot wait to see what Charles Leclerc can pull off. It'll be absolutely brilliant, the battle between them two. Lewis Hamilton going into a new season, which, well, he's got much to prove, hasn't he? Last year wasn't a good year for him. His qualifying performances really let him down. He was just sort of thinking, like, I've actually just lost my pace. But, you know, he's got Ferrari now, a new car, new challenge, really, that just push him and give him that one, you know, the extra drive to go and do it. You know, it sounds daft saying that as he lost it, is he still got it, but he's a 7-time world champion. Has he got much left to prove? The one lap qualifying will be an issue, and Charles Leclerc is an absolute specialist there, and that's really up. He's really up against someone mega quick over one lap. His race ability is still there. It was proven throughout the whole of that season, even Abu Dhabi at the end. His racecraft is second to none, and that's why I think this combo together will be absolutely phenomenal. They can both, if they pick things off each other, they can both drive that team to a championship. The concern is that Ferrari have said that their 25 car is a completely new concept, and they had a strong car finishing ahead of Red Bull, you know, and not far off McLaren in the end. They, you know, really put up a solid fight. So could they potentially go in the wrong direction? We've seen so many teams try to just come up with something new and fantastic and fall flat on the face. Interesting, they've done that with the whole new concept for 26 coming. You know, the updates and developments will have new roads to take, unless this was issues that they clearly seen that limited them in 24, and they've just revamped them for 25. But for me, this is the second best driver combo, and it's strange saying that, seeing Charles Leclerc, who was mega, alongside Lewis Hamilton, who was not so good, but he's still a 7-time world champion. And so it'll be interesting to see what the pair of them can do next time out. Next up, it's the Red Bulls. They finished third in the championship last season. Max Verstappen, Liam Lawson. Max winning the championship really glossed over a horrible campaign off track for Red Bull, didn't it? In-team fighting, they were slow. You know, right at the top of the company, that just sort of feeded down, fighting between Christian Horner and Max Verstappen's dad. The fallout of that meant, you know, Adrian Newey left, Jonathan Wheatley left, and the car kind of just went downhill. If it wasn't for that great start to the campaign, Max Verstappen, I don't think would have been world champion. The pressure was on, really, wasn't he? He made sort of strange decisions, misjudgments that we've not seen from him in the past. And so that really told. But Max Verstappen, brilliant, and results really just sort of glossed over that a little bit. He was absolutely fantastic. That just really kind of held that team together a little bit to say, yes, we've still got it. Max Verstappen is clearly the man to beat. He's just, that season, just he really just pushed himself to another level. Proved a lot of doubters wrong to say, man, this guy, yes, he's got the best car and that's why he's running away with it. Last year, there's no doubt about it. He did not have the fastest car. Even in the last race, he finished, what, 6th in the end or something. So, you know, that car just wasn't quick. But the races, wins that he pulled off, Spain, Canada, Brazil, just were outstanding. And only Max Verstappen can do that. And up against him, Liam Lawson comes in and replaces Sergio Perez. Make no mistake about it, it will be pressure from day one. Perez got some leeway that we've not seen before with either Pierre Gasly or Alex Albon. Both of them, you know, got pushed out when they just thought, These guys haven't got it. Liam Lawson, will they be giving him more leeway? There's potential for that. We've seen them do it with Perez. Does that now set a bit of a precedent? Have they learned from the potential errors of Gasly and Albon? Because we've seen what them two drivers have gone on to do in their other respective teams. He's got the jump on Yuki Tsunoda into that seat, and well, he's got some questions as to whether Lawson is the right choice here. Horner said he's still young, he's quick, he's got an awful lot to learn, and we just think the scope that he's got to go forward compared to Yuki is why we've given him this seat. So interesting that they've gone down that route. But yeah, the Red Bull car, it just needs to be one that's drivable, something that, not just something that Max Verstappen can drive, that's something that all the other 3-4 drivers really struggle with. But guess what, they just build a car that goes the fastest around the circuit, and if it's sharp and pointy at the front and that's what helps them do that, that's the car that they'll build. Will they change that to try and something new to help them for 26? Who knows? But Liam Lawson's got an awfully big job to do in that car. Like I said, the pressure is on. It's Red Bull. We've seen that they can be massively cutthroat. I think Liam Lawson's got a strong head on him, and it's probably why he's given that seat. The way he riled up Fernando Alonso, just the way he is. He seems very calm, very mature when he's driving. His racecraft is pretty good. Over one lap, you can see he's got the pace. Just needs to iron out some issues, and just really probably just bring that car home, just not miles behind Max Verstappen. And I think Red Bull will be happy until he gets himself settled in their ways. But for me, this is the 4th best driver lineup on the grid. Liam Lawson's got a lot to prove. We know Max Verstappen will really lift that team to new heights. Next up, Mercedes, 4th in the end in the Constructors' Championship. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, the new young blood coming into it. It was another horrible season for them. They just never seemed to get on top of the car. They didn't start well again, but then won 3 races out of 4 with Hamilton's win in Silverstone, the Belgian Grand Prix, and my brain's gone on the other one. But yeah, then there was that 4-week break. They came back and lost their way again, and then they dropped off. Vegas was the other win, a real freak result really in the end. The car was just absolutely in its element. It worked, and it was an absolute country mile faster than anyone else. So if they can get that car in that sweet spot, it works. It's very, very fast. Can they do that for this year in 25? That will be the big question for the team. George Russell had a solid season last season. Nothing spectacular. The brilliant result really was Belgium. But yeah, you can't rest on his laurels. Qualifying, he was absolutely brilliant. Whitewashed Lewis Hamilton. Got that car, even in certain circuits, just way up there where it shouldn't have been. And I think he'll be... Pressure on him, he needs to just iron out a little bit of mistakes, maybe not to be too aggressive when there's not really anything on the card there for him to win. We know he loves to just go all in for the wins, and that's something I absolutely love about him. But this time, he's the role model, he's the team leader, the one that's going to drive that car forward. And he's got an awful lot to prove. It's a big season for him. A lot of rumours to say that actually if Kimi Antonelli proves himself, Mercedes are still potentially hunting around for Max Verstappen, and we could see George Russell lose his seat. It's interesting that sort of stuff's coming out. Is that just to sort of make sure he doesn't just rest on his laurels like now I'm the man at Mercedes? But a lot will just come down to the package. Can they finally, and when these regulations are coming to an end, just finally get on top of the car? Who knows? Kimi Antonelli, well, this guy had a lot of fanfare. Got revealed at the Italian Grand Prix that he'll be driving for the team. He's been embedded in the team for some time. He's had quite a lot of young driver tests. Did a couple of practice 1 sessions for the team throughout last year. So he'll know and have that in his bank, in his locker, to just sort of know how this team works. How the car works, so it's not completely new to him, and so when he steps in the car in Australia, he can almost hit the ground running. A bit better prep than say Jack Doohan, for example, or Lawson in Red Bull, because it's a completely new team. I know he's been with Racing Bulls, but the Racing Bulls and Red Bull team, the way they two run, are completely different. So he'll be well settled in terms of that. Yeah, when the pressure was on in Italy in this big P1 run, so many fans, so many media outlets, we've never seen that really before in a young guy going out. And he dropped it. What did he complete a full flying lap? I'm not so sure he did. I don't think he did, in fact. And so he needs to just sort of probably not let that pressure get to him. He's been saying all the right things in the media. He's sort of saying, look, I'm not Lewis Hamilton's replacement. I'm just another driver for Mercedes. Absolutely the right attitude to have, just really kill any expectations of what anybody else might put on him. But for me, probably not the strongest outfit, but a lot of promise with these two. Really excited to see what Kimi can do in a full season. All the hype is there for a reason, because the kid is a special talent. George Russell, we know what he's about, and he can pull off spectacular things. But for me, this is the 5th best team on the grid. Then comes Aston Martin, finished 5th in the championships last year, best of the rest behind the big four. They seem just lost after that great start in 23, which now just looks like a massive fluke, because nearly come in a good year and a half on, because mid-23 they sort of dropped off massively, didn't they? They just seem to be absolutely lost. Any of the upgrades that they bring just haven't worked. The team have spent big. New factory, Adrian Newey, a whole new restructure at the top. Lawrence Stroll is going all in on this team. Too early for Newey to have his effect on 26, but I'm sure he'll be pointing the guys of where he thinks they may be going wrong. He comes with massive experience. He's driven and guided Red Bull to multiple world championships now over the last few seasons. Really knows these regulations well. So he'll be able to go straight in and say, look, this idea, just absolutely kill it, will not work. Let's go down this route. And he'll be able to do that from day dot. And so if they do listen and kind of go maybe down the McLaren approach when Stella came in and they just said, we're going to suffer here for the first 6 months, but when we get things right, we'll go on. And how great did that prove for McLaren? Went strongly towards the end of 23, and the Constructors are champions in 24. Can Newey have that effect? Absolutely. He knows these regulations massively well. He's done such a fantastic job at Red Bull. Aston Martin will be hoping that they can do absolutely the same here. Fernando Alonso, this guy is absolutely brilliant. Drags this team by the scruff of the throat. Points pretty consistently when the car allows. He's been absolutely battering Lance Stroll. The only time he didn't do that was Canada last year. And that's where he seemed to lose his mojo a bit. But he'll be really up for this season. He's got Adrian Newey alongside him. Newey saying, him and Lewis Hamilton are the two drivers that really wanted to build a car for and work with. I really hope that the rumours potentially of a big money offer for Verstappen to come in and take Alonso's seat aren't true. He does get to drive a true full new car for 26. Fernando Alonso is brilliant. He'll take that team again for 25 forward, and it'll be great to see how these guys end up towards the end of 25. Will the upgrades start coming and actually working on that car? Can Newey sort of build that in, or are there some other inherent problems within that team? Time will tell. But Fernando Alonso, do I need to talk more about this guy? Double world champion, driven so far beyond, probably for me, top 3 or 4 drivers in Formula 1, potentially even ever. He's absolutely brilliant. Love this guy. Lance Stroll, well, honestly, if it wasn't his dad's team, he wouldn't be in this seat. He would have lost his seat absolutely years ago. He's had a couple of good results, like I just keep banging on about. Canada springs to mind, and that's about it. Otherwise, he's been a liability in that team. He's not quick. He's not got one lap pace. There's not one single thing that I can put on this guy to say this is why he deserves a seat. This is what he brings. Clearly not great with sort of telling ways of how the car's working and the feedback, potentially getting the team to go in the right direction, because any upgrade they've bought has been poor. For me, they've just been he's just really holding this team back, a bit like Perez last season for Red Bull. Stroll, yeah, I mean, if he just has a poor season, someone really has to come up and say to Lawrence, I know he's your son, lad, but really, come on. It's really just, overall, it's just, Alonso is clearly the man here. Lance Stroll, let's see what he can do, if anything. But for me, this is probably the 6th best lineup on the grid. Alpine up next. Well, they stole P6 last year, didn't they? A brilliant result in Brazil really did that. But despite that, towards the end of the season, considering how shocking they were, they actually really did turn that car around. We know they're way down on horsepower. That won't change. They did try the best to try and get some regs changed to sort of try and help them bridge the gap, but with 26 coming, it's an awful lot of money to go into an engine to redevelop that. And how did they just let one team do that and not the others when they know they're the disadvantage? It's not fair. The rules were set for everybody. They did a bad job, and sadly they've suffered. This year they'll have similar problems, but the way they countered them towards the end of last season, they'd be hoping that they can do sort of similar tweaks and make that work for them for 25. You know, they only got 2 points in their first 8 races. Yeah, absolutely shockingly bad, wasn't it? They've just had 2 seasons in one, really. First half just shocking, the second half, well, a shock to everybody, even Pierre Gasly, because even at one point I'm sure he was thinking, geez, maybe I've made a big mistake signing longer term with these guys. They just seem to be absolutely going nowhere. Ocon was probably laughing to the bank thinking, thank God Haas have taken me, because they looked very, very good. But there was a change around and turnaround there. Pierre Gasly, well, some excellent drives. Canada, P15 to P9 last year. Brazil, P13 to P3. Abu Dhabi, the P7 he held off brilliantly. The Haas to get that 6th in the Constructors' Championship. He goes into this season, well, with massive expectations. He qualified well as well brilliantly last season. P7 in Spain stands out as well. So a P6 in Coulter, a P3 in Vegas, a P5 in Abu Dhabi, and that stinker of a car. So this guy really did up his stock last year for me. I was always a bit skeptical. I says, this guy really got it. I know a lot of other guys and teams rated him really highly. For me, not so much, but let's see how positive he can keep and that momentum into 25. It'll be crucial for them and the whole outfit as a whole. You know, they've lost Renault, they go in their own way with different engine suppliers, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for 26, and will that really affect him in 25? You'd really hope not, but with Renault sort of effectively saying that is the last season with us, providing the engine to our sister team, who they still technically own. Interesting. Flavio Briatore's back. You know, a lot of positives and ups on there. Jack Doohan in the second seat. He only had 1 race. Hard to judge. He was steady Eddie. Nothing spectacular, but his first real full race, he was quite a bit off the pace at some parts. So he's going into this season with huge pressure on the shoulders. And much more so than any other rookie out there on the grid, because yes, Formula 1 is real cutthroat, but these guys have signed Franco Colapinto as the reserve driver, and he's just sat there tapping his fingers waiting to any moment that Jack Doohan shows a few races of inconsistency. This guy's going to be saying, look at me, look at me, look what the pace that I showed last year. And no doubt he was absolutely brilliant last year. So really interesting to see what these guys can do or what he can do next season. Will he be there by the end of the season? Sadly, I suspect not, and it's really horrible saying that before he's turned a full wheel in anger for the 25 season, but with that much pressure, he's going to have some massive, huge steel balls, isn't he, to sort of shrug that aside and show, yes, I am the man. He's got his dad, you know, a fantastic racer behind him, so he's got the right support, and he really, really will need that to go and kick on for next season. But the 9th strongest team for me. Next up is the Haas team, the 7th place finishers, the surprise of 24. They finished bottom 23. Gunter Steiner was gone. It just didn't look good. The rumours and noise coming out of the team early doors was sort of saying that yeah, don't expect too much for us. They gave themselves 8th place as a constructors as a target. They really should have had 6th place in the constructors, and to say they'll be disappointed with 7th, it just shows how great a season these guys have had. They were consistently both in the points, some fantastic drives from Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen at times. Komatsu's come in and done an absolutely brilliant job. Small tweaks, not massively changing things, and just got this team working fantastically well. He's got this Toyota deal on the go, and as, like I said, he just sort of really managed expectations early doors just to see what they can go on and do. I mean, there's a real balance to be had with these guys. They've not got a massive budget, so how far into 26 will they be looking? I think that's going to be the big thing for them for 25. They tend to only bring really one big upgrade to this season. It worked really well for them last season. This season, they kind of need to just sort of up the ante a bit, isn't it? Because, or can they afford to with 26 in the horizon with such massive regulation changes? And I think that's going to be the hard part for these lot. An all-new driver lineup, Esteban Ocon, new to the team. He'll be, disappointing. I think Haas were probably disappointed to lose Nico Hülkenberg, who's absolutely brilliant for them last season. Now they've got Ocon. He's shown he's got pace. What a brilliant drive he had in Brazil. He was probably looking at this team thinking, look, these guys are going places, and really happy to join from Alpine, who were absolutely nowhere at the beginning of last season. But he'll join in the team, and will he be the team leader? He's got Ollie Berman up alongside him as his teammate, young driver. And one thing leveled at Ocon is that he's just not a great team player. There's just no hiding that at all. What can he do to show, yes, I am that, and brush all them sort of things to the side? I'm sure he'll come here hungry, aggressive, and that's the Ocon that Haas want, but they really need to show, and he needs to show, that he is a team player, and with that really just level up and take Haas forward for 25. The team really will need his help. Ollie Berman, his first full season in F1 coming up. He's had some very good races. The stop gaps in Saudi, Baku, where he was brilliant. I gave him a 9 out of 10 there. It's going to be a really different prospect for him, though, having a full season and building up to that every single race. That's slightly bit more pressure. You are the man. You're going to go in and you've got to bring home the results. I'll be really interested to see how he gets on. He's got some really good one-lap pace. He's been good with some clean races. Just going to see how he gets on in wheel-to-wheel. I've not seen him have too much wheel-to-wheel action when he's stepped in, and that's one thing I'm really excited to see about these guys. For me, Haas with the 7th best team driver combo on the grid. Racing Bulls next up, and I think they actually are called that officially for 25, thank God, rather than the stupidest name in the world. Last season was really a big disappointment from them. They went with really high optimism, especially given how many parts they've taken off the Red Bull, which absolutely wiped the floor with everybody. Everybody's sort of, I think, a bit fearful. McLaren were really outspoken about, how much data and parts do they actually share? Is this really fair? One, whole outfit, or Red Bull owning 2 teams, they can work together, share data, and who can really know? How can you really police that? Shouldn't be allowed. And then voices kind of just disappeared a bit because Racing Bulls were absolutely nowhere. Yuki Tsunoda really was the highlight for me. He will be disappointed not to get the Red Bull seat. But Horner said this season could potentially be his last, because this is a seat where they bring up new prospects, and Yuki holding that seat for another season potentially doesn't really make sense for them. So Yuki's got to go out and prove that he's the man, try and find himself another race seat if he can, just iron out little issues. He was brilliant last year for me. I'm so disappointed for him not getting that Red Bull seat. I honestly really think he deserved it. He honed his skills at the junior team and then should have taken that step up. Lawson seems to have just jumped the gun a little bit for me, and kind of has the Racing Bull team lost a little bit of his identity and soul by that happening. Some would argue not, because it's a young driver from that academy growing up, but the guy that's sort of proven himself to be the better of the guys that he's been up against. Danny Ricciardo, everyone thought he might struggle. Liam Lawson, I think Yuki had the better of him for much of that. But he really needs to just put that disappointment aside. He needs to just cut out the mistakes. He had races where when it went wrong for him, went horribly wrong for him. So he just needs to temper that sort of aggression, disappointment when that sort of things happen, and just put to one side, pocket it and go again. But he was much better, and consistency will be the big key word for Yuki Tsunoda for this season, because he's definitely got the pace. Isaac Hadjar, another Red Bull young driver in the program, gets the seat up, a new graduate in Formula 1, steps into a difficult seat up against Yuki Tsunoda. We've seen what Yuki has done with other guys up against him. Yuki's obviously been with the team along for, a number of times now, and really is one of 4 prospects going to this season, and I'm really seeing not just team performances, battle, but also to see how he is racing against the other young guys. Last year, he just lost out to Bortoleto to the title in the F2 Championship. He'll need to just show, for me, really, that he's got the speed. The consistency will come after, and I think from there on, let's see how they get on. Just get his feet under the table, show he's got some pace, and then from there on, just kick forward. For me, these are the 8th best driver combination on the grid. Next up is the Williams outfit. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon picking up the team for 25. 24 was absolutely horrendous from them, wasn't it? The car was horrible. It just wasn't ready in time. They just were so behind the bar. They just got 2 points out of 11 races, 6 in 16 races. Lots of expensive crashes. They kept Sargent at the end of 23, which proved a big mistake. Colo Pinto came on, was very quick, but also had expensive crashes, which really didn't help that team. Potential for him to pick up some points, and that just didn't really happen. This season, though, they're going in strong. They've announced a new title sponsor, their biggest sponsor they've had ever, they've said. So exciting to some IT tech firm that they're joining up with. New sponsor, more money. They've gone and actually done a 23 old car test for the first time in absolutely ages. So they are, they've got the right man. Val's right up there at the top, sort of leading that team. He just sounds so reassured that he's the man that's going to take them forward, and all signs so far pointing in the right directions. Carlos Sainz, such a major coup for this team. It was just sniped him under the nose of Audi and Alpine, and what a signing from him. Shows what a tremendous job, what a sort of whole structure and idea they've sold to Carlos Sainz. Williams must have had some real guys just absolutely hammering marketing and everything, just hammering this whole pitch to Carlos, and it's really paid wonders for them. Last season, under the circumstances, he drove absolutely brilliantly. Carlos Sainz, Australia, he did it. So there's no doubt about Carlos. He's absolutely a fantastic driver, and Williams got a real good driver on the talent on their hands. This year they go in with 2 massively experienced guys. They'll be hoping that the crash funds will be really reduced, and they can put more money to upgrades throughout the season, and definitely towards 26. Really exciting to see how Carlos Sainz sits into that Williams. He'll take an awful lot of experience from Ferrari, who are really on the up. It'll be interesting to see how that works with him and the team. Alex Albon, he's an absolutely brilliant driver, really pushed that car and team to really took on the lead of team leader pretty quickly, didn't it? Just with his pace, some fantastic races, some big points for him. He had a disappointing campaign last season, too many DNFs for me. Franco Colo joined and he just seemed to lose his way a little bit, but then quickly gabbed himself again. Now he's got Carlos Sainz up against him. He needs to just sort of put that big name to a side and just sort of say, yes, go into the season as he's done many of the others where he's shone brilliantly. He's massively highly rated, Alex Albon, and even a lot of people sort of saying he potentially should have had Sergio Perez's seat, because he's proven that going away from Red Bull, he's got the pace, he's shown that he can absolutely do it, and he would have been a solid driver, even a potential second driver to Max Verstappen. Obviously, it didn't happen, but for me, this has got to be the best driver pairing on the grid. For me, it's right up there, probably better than Hamilton and Leclerc, I'd even say. It sounds a bit staffed when I've said that back, but for me, in the Williams team, for these to pull off this, Sainz and Albon, I cannot wait for these two to get up in battling against each other and pushing that team forward. How far forward will the Williams team finish in the Constructors? I definitely, and they will be hoping they're not finishing 9th. I really expect them to go really shoot up and be 5th, 6th potentially by the end of next season, really showing an awful lot of promise from them. And last but not least, the Sauber team. They finished last season. Well, not really a nice word you can say about how crap their season was. Like, I mean, even that sounds too nice a word, wasn't it? Wheel nut issues, slow, just seemed really poor on getting the car together, and none of the upgrades, that the small ones that they did, really worked. Had a massive restructure at the top. Binotto came in, Jonathan Wheatley is coming as well. They've got a new factory that's coming in the UK for 25. It looks like they've listened to Eddie Jordan, who was hammering them, wasn't he? Saying, look, these guys are based out of the UK, them and Ferrari only, really. We've got Racing Bulls, we've got Italian based, but they've got a Red Bull technical space within the Red Bull factory. Ferrari is the only one that's purely out of the UK as we speak now. Sauber will be joining the UK hub of Motorsport Valley. That's where all the talent is and gathered around. And so that's where they're hoping to just sort of pick that off and really help them drive forward. Hinwil will still be their main base. They've got the base in Germany where the engines will be built with Audi. So these guys are going to be spread out, and so they really need to find a way of how they can make that work really fluidly and just not things getting clogged up in the systems, miscommunication, you know, things just not working smoothly. And that's really going to be one of their biggest tasks going forward for 26. But Audi, really looking forward to them joining the team when they come forward. Interesting season ahead. They've put a lot of funds into this team going forward. Nico Hülkenberg, the star signing, new team. Honestly, it probably looks like a downgrade from where he's come from. Last season he was brilliant. He's Audi got their man. He's really looking for 26, 25 was sort of the embedding season for the Audi guys, wanting to get the men in and just sort of work from there. Bortoletto is the surprise for me, but yeah, it comes with great pedigree. He's managed by Fernando Alonso, back-to-back titles in F3, in F2, 23 and 24. He got from last to first in Monza last year in one of the races. So Formula One is still a big jump, but it's coming with good, really good pedigree. Won the championship last year, come with a high. You know, for me though, this is probably the weakest link or the weakest team on the grid. Driver team combo, the team not really in the place that it needs to be just yet. Nico Hülkenberg, a fantastic driver, but Bortoletto, a real unknown, much like Yuki Tsunoda, Hadjar, Gasly doing. There's not really much between them three really in my eyes, but for me, Sauber, the bottom of the pile, the ones that I'll think will struggle the most. But well, there we have it. It looks set to be an absolutely brilliant season. For me, surprise was really Williams with the top driver lineup, absolutely outstanding. But not much to pick between them really, is there? Hamilton, Leclerc will be brilliant. I can't wait for the action to get going. The first race in the season in March, Australia, can't come soon enough. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. See you next time.